Hi all. Quite an interesting game got my attention from the Legends of Chess, organised by Chess24. Magnus Carlsen against Ding Liren, so this is a rapid time control. Magnus was playing white and kicked off with d4. We see knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, bypassing the Nimzo Indian defence, so Queen's Indian territory. And we transpose actually into a semi-Slav here after knight c3, c6, so that's Slav triangle. We have bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, d takes c4, e4. This is quite an aggressive line for white. After g5, bishop g3, b5. Black is clinging on to the c4 pawn. We have bishop e2, bishop b7, and white castles, knight bd7, and now a really interesting move, knight d2. I think this is a bit unusual, a bit off the beaten path. Knight e5 has been seen before, I believe. After bishop g7, knight takes. It should be about even. So knight d2 is a really, really interesting idea. We have here queen b6 being played, a4, a6. Black wants to keep the structure secure. If black dared to take on d4, then a takes, and it just gets dismantled after knight takes. And even worse, there's knight c7 check, so that's a total disaster. Black wants to keep the structure secure, so a6. We have e5, knight d5, and now knight d e4, a nice parking space in the center for the knight. c5. Now we have knight takes, bishop takes, and in fact, this is already an interesting position. Instead of bishop takes as in the game, let's ask, what if e takes? There's a really fascinating move here. This move kind of weakens subtly, I would say, this diagonal, and there's a kind of potential killer common square set up, actually, subtly. It's a difficult move to spot, and maybe this is like preparation or something, or maybe Magnus found it at the board. Can you spot what white would play in this variation? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. So the black king's still in the centre. It turns out bishop g4 is dangerous. Looking at d7, so for example, if d takes, then just taking. And the queen is not very well placed here. This discovery check is winning the queen. If we look at this again with bishop g4, if c takes d4, a5 it turns out is dangerous after knight d6 check. Bishop takes, and the king's kept in the centre. This is pretty dangerous for black as well. So very, very interesting move, this knight takes d5, what would happen on e takes. So bishop takes d5, trying to really keep things solid. Knight c3, trying to dismantle things again. If knight takes, we can see that the pawn is liberated and the king's still in the centre. Black does dare take on d4, and Magnus plays knight takes d5, e takes, but you might wonder, hold on, there's no big problem here with e6. Magnus makes it a much more dangerous move with this next move. Can you guess white's next move if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video? Okay, e6 is made a lot more effective as a threat now with bishop h5, so threatening e6, pinning the f7 pawn. We have knight c5, which does release the connection against d4, so d4 is taken. And if, for example, e6 instead, then knight takes is sufficient. Or is it? I mean, this is dangerous as well, actually. Queen f3 and queen takes white is also pretty, it's pretty dangerous. So it's precarious position already, but queen takes d4, queen e6, and it looks as though this blockade is very good, and black is threatening knight b3. If bishop g7 had been played instead, queen takes, looks at the rook. And here, there's a nasty tactic, actually. Can you guess in this variation what white would play? Okay, bishop takes f7. Yeah, if rook takes, queen takes a8. So this is giving, an advantage, whatever. Otherwise, the e-pawn's crashing through, e6 and stuff. It starts to get very, very scary in the variations. Okay, so queen e6, keeping a firm blockade. Bishop g4. Knight b3, queen d1, so keeping that threat on the queen. Queen c6, and now things get crazy. A takes, queen takes, and now with the knight hitting the rook, in fact Magnus ignored that. e6, breaking through the e file. F takes is played. If knight takes a1, then the king is in big trouble. For example, here after check, check, queen f6 check, looking at pieces to pick up. But also it's because of the bishops, in fact, it's not even about the rook anymore. All the escape squares are covered. So black's actually getting mated here. Queen takes e7 is checkmate. So very, very dangerous. So we have f takes, bishop takes, leaving the rook to be taken, but there's so many threats now against the king. The king's wide open there. There's rook, bishop, queen. Well, queen and both bishops and the rook. Rook a7 is played. If knight takes a1 here, then queen h5, rook d1. If rook a7, queen f3. There's a target practice on d5. And check, for example, black's getting wiped out here. It looks like a poisoned rook in this variation. So rook a7 was played instead of taking the rook, trying to hold it together. Bishop takes d5, knight takes a1, and we have queen f3 now. So opening up things even more for possibilities of checks, like bishop c6 check is threatened, rook e1 check is threatened, as well as the other ones. In fact, black resigned here. Black couldn't really see how to defend against everything. If knight c2, then yeah, bishop c6 wins the queen. If rook d7, then in fact rook e1 check, and here queen f6 check, and bishop f7 would be a real technical killer here actually. So there's huge ideas in this position. If king c8, rook takes, taking on e7, the king's in real trouble. Bishop e6 is on the way, so it's the end of the king. So a wonderful game, really dynamic and creative, and remarkable, for the fast time control, the imagination to break through to the king in the center. So it makes me wonder, we can't really underestimate king safety, can we? Otherwise your king's going to be crushed sometimes at the hands of Magnus Carlsen. He definitely had his attacking hat on for this game. A wonderful game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it as much as me. Comments, questions, likes, subscribes with the notification bell, really appreciated. And if you want to challenge me for a game, Kings Crusher TV or bit.ly/chessworld, just register, and at Chessworld I'll be able to invite you for a game later. Okay, thanks very much.